All right, I'm B from Our Dream, Our Purpose, and what do you think we could turn this brass into? Can we get the brass out of this and melt it as well? Let's find out. All right, everybody, it's been a little while since I've been on here. Here in Ohio, the weather's not been the best, so it's tough to go out and find different things to melt. As it gets into the spring and the summertime, I'll have a lot more videos out for you to be able to see. Again, it's a learning opportunity for us to see how to do it. I'm learning from you guys. Hopefully you guys are learning a little something from me as well. What I have here is a friend of mine who was tearing a building down. He says, hey, I've got some things you might be able to melt, come on over. So had a couple opportunities to do it, grab a couple different things. There's a bunch of little brass pieces, a lot of plumbing pieces, and then these are actually inserts. You can see it over here. They're wear items, so they're threaded into the steel, and then as they wear, you just replace that, the steel's fine, everything's good. So I have some here to melt. This here you're going to see me tear down. My goal is to actually, I think I can put this in a vise. Just put a pipe wrench on this, take it out. These I'll actually have to do some drilling. Probably going to drill a couple holes, put some nails in if they're strong enough, if they're not, get some harder metal, put them in there, and then actually turn them. So I'll show you what I'm doing there. Let's see how it turns out. But our plan is to get these out first, and then just do a little brass melt. Melt with some little bars and go from there. All right. Hopefully we'll end up being around 9-10 pounds of brass out of it, but let's see. Follow through. All right.
So this larger piece has the brass fitting. The brass part of it's actually sticking out, so I can actually put a pipe wrench on it to turn it. I did learn, however, though, after cleaning up the back, you can see here, there's actually some set screws in there that were between the steel and the brass, so it wouldn't turn. So I took those out. It was turning a little bit. It was tough to get it to hold in the vise itself, but I got to turn a little bit, not enough though. So went and moved on to one of the smaller ones and tried working on that. So tried a couple different things with the smaller ones. I'm trying to actually drill out 2 holes, put some nails in them, thought they'd be strong enough to where I could actually use it to twist, and it just didn't work. So went back to the larger one, tried moving it out, and again it really was locked in there pretty tight. So I'll show you what I'm going to try to do, and then we'll go from there.
All right, back from trying to tear these down. One thing that I often do is, if I do something once, the second time I'll show you, I a lot of times fast forward through it. I don't do it over and over and over again. But I do try to show you the first time I go about doing different things. These, no big deal. Obviously don't have to do anything to them. We'll just melt those down. This over here, actually when I started this, taking this out, it wouldn't move at all. Realized in the back I had 2 set screws in it that was between the brass and the metal, so it was holding in place. Took those out. Started turning, got it 1/4 of an inch, maybe 2 full turns out, and it's just locking up. It's just not wanting to move much at all. Same with these. I tried drilling them, tried putting pins, it just wasn't moving. So I'm going to do something different than I normally do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this crucible and put it right in the middle of the forge, put some things in it so it'll get the flame going so it starts, and then I'm actually going to put these on top of the forge to see if it'll get hot enough to actually melt the brass from the inside out. The brass melts at a lower temperature than the steel itself does, so it shouldn't be a problem there, but let's try it and see if it does, if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll find a way later down the road to get it out, but to start off, let's give it a shot and see. All right, I'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll set the forge up and see how it turns out. All right.
As I often do, as I'm setting up to do a melt, my goal is to get the forge set up first, the crucible in place, and then I actually will get the forge lit and warm while I'm setting everything else up. Just save some time, really, is what I'm working on there. So as you can see here, I'm just trying to get it set up. We'll get it started, and then we'll actually bring other things in to set up the entire work area. As I mentioned, I wasn't able to get the brass out of the inside of the steel pieces here, so I'm putting it on top of the forge, and the crucible inside right in the middle. So what I'm hoping for is that it actually melts down inside the crucible. Not as successful as I'd hoped, but we'll watch and I'll explain some of the problems we ran into. So I had this heating for a little bit. I was hoping it would melt enough on the inside. Just trying to hit it to see if I can knock any of it off. Did not get it hot enough. Not sure if it was because it was at the very top, not inside. Not real sure. We'll try it again later, but just FYI, that's what I was trying to do here. So here I just dropped one of the brass pieces inside, off to the side of the crucible. I didn't want it to melt in the forge itself without being in the crucible, so just took it out and then put the crucible back inside. Didn't seem to have a good grip on the crucible, so just wanted to get a good grip on it, a different grip, and try it again. poured 2 full ingots here, and now we're just putting the rest of the brass pieces in. Gonna let those heat up and melt, and then we'll see how many more we can get out of it. So what I don't explain much is the flames. When you see the flames, the original flames like this, that's the gas only. And then you see it with my foot, and you see the pop, and you get the solid. That's me introducing the air into it. So the air propane mixture is what really gets the heat at the level of what it is. So just giving you a heads up on that. So these are graphite molds, and what you see is I give it a little bit of time so it actually the brass cools down, shrinks, and comes out of the mold. The mold stays the same size. Sometimes you'll see me trying different metal molds. The tough thing with those is the metal itself also expands with the heat and then contracts whenever it cools, so it's not as easy to get brass or whatever I'm melting out of it in this case. So go ahead and put it in water just so it cools down, and I can actually clean it up a little later. So you see when I pull the crucible out, when we're getting a white smoke there, it's from zinc. I'll explain that a little bit later. Just the zinc itself burning off. But also you see the glowing of the crucible. It takes about 1700 degrees Fahrenheit to melt brass. So it's very hot crucible, so always be careful when doing any kind of pours like this. I do miss the molds from time to time, but what you see this on, it's on an elevated platform, and it's on plywood that I put it on top of, and the reason for that is so it doesn't pour onto the concrete. Concrete has pores, air pockets that it could heat up and expand, so always careful with that.
All right, so just FYI, I wear the mask anytime I do brass. The white smoke you see is zinc burning off, from what I understand. So I just want to be a little more careful. Just took it off so we could talk, and then I'll be out of this room. Let it air out a little more. But we got 3.5 bars out of it. Struggled to do those. I'll explain that till we go through. I think it was just too high. It was not melting the brass on the inside of the steel. So we'll get that out some other day. But we'll get these, wait a little bit, and we'll get these out of the molds and then into the water, let them cool, clean them up, and then we'll finish the video up. All right? See you here just shortly.
So I'm just using a wire wheel to clean these up. The smooth sides are a lot easier to clean. The very top is always the one that's a little rougher, a little more porous, so it's a little tougher to get everything out of it to clean them up. But just go ahead and clean them up here, and you see it's actually a brass wire wheel. A friend of mine introduced me to these, and they seem to clean up so much better than just a regular wire wheel. So I'll continue to use this, clean them all up, and then show you and weigh them what we come up with.
All right, got them all cleaned up here. Got 3 bars of all brass. I think they turned out well. And a half, a little over 6 pounds actually, of brass we got out of those fittings. We did leave some on the table in those steel parts. Wasn't able to get those out, and really what I'm doing, when I do these different pours, some I've not done before, trying to get those brass inserts out, never did it before. So wasn't able to physically get them out. Tried using it over top, on the top of the crucible forge. Didn't work. So weren't able to get those out. Maybe later we'll be able to get those out, try something different. But these here is what we were able to melt down. Again, anytime doing brass, you gotta be careful with the fumes. Any different types of metals, be careful with the fumes. Brass, that zinc in there really, I've learned, has gotten me because it melts at a lower temperature. You're heating it to a higher temperature to melt the other metals in there. So it overburns it, overmelts it, heats it. So it causes that dust, that fumes that go in the air. So wear a respirator, be careful with what you're doing. If anybody has any tips for me how to get those brass inserts out, please leave them for me, leave some comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, trying to build up our channel. And we'll go from there, all right? Thanks again, keep watching.